Hello and welcome to Lockdown Beers and Rugby Chat. And yes, it's nearly 5 p.m. on Friday. It's time to knock off, folks. You haven't knocked off already from work. If you're working from home, grab yourself a beer, chill out, and start to wind down with us as we talk about the rugby mainly that's coming out this weekend. I'll have a chat about the Farah Palmer Cup. I mean, that's underway already with Northland playing Hawke's Bay. Currently, the score is 14-0 to Northland currently. Two converted tries there, and they're about 18 minutes in. So about a quarter of the game gone up there in Northland. So great start for the Curry up against the Tui there in that one. We'll keep you up to date with that score as we go through the show. For those of you watching the recording, obviously you know the result. We don't yet, but as I say, looking good for the home team up there. We'll have a chance to talk about that. We'll look at rugby predictions for the men's games this weekend. We've got some tournaments across 5 different tournaments going on at the moment, and so lots of rugby to run through those. We've also had the missing Pumas who went for that health retreat in New South Wales have been named, so we'll have a look at those as well. Plus a little treat for you from our Warren Brosnian interview that we put out yesterday at 8 p.m. So a little snippet of that for you as well. So 25 seconds to go until I can open my beer at 5 o'clock. I don't want to crack it open too early. Yet again, I am with the New Zealand lagers. Nearly finished that box, so time to buy a new box. If you want to give me any sort of recommendations as to what box of 12 I can get at New World, then let me know in the comments. You can also tweet me at Driving More. Oops, there it is, 5 o'clock. Cool. Beer time. There we go. Crack it open. Bella says it's a lovely sound for our podcast listeners. I'm surprised they're next to the microphone with my now traditional pour. So, as I say, that's Farah Palmer Cup. And it's, oh dear me, it's getting even worse for Hawke's Bay. A third try for Northland. So it's 19-0 now. I think we've still got the conversion to come in that one. They're one of the teams that has actually got some, Ty Nathan Wong has turned up, is turning up for them today, which is good to see. Across the other game, though, boy, oh boy, it's not going to be the same situation. Waikato versus Wellington at FMG Stadium. That's a game I will be at tomorrow. Kick off at 12 or 5 past 12 tomorrow. Unfortunately, Waikato will be missing seven or nine players. Sorry, I've just realised I may have got my number wrong there. Either way, it is a lot of players that are missing because of the Black Ferns and players being held for that one. It's been a long time since Waikato have had a game with them because obviously the old what's the word I am looking for? COVID delayed their game, and then their games since lockdown have been against Auckland-based teams, and so hence they've not had a game, a competitive game from that. So yes, 9 Black Ferns are missing from the Waikato side. No surprise there that the TAB has got Wellington, the away team, as favourites in that game. So I'll be at that one. I say, do follow me. I'll put on mainly on the Facebook page will be the post-match interviews from that one. You got some serious question marks here for New Zealand rugby, and it is prompting me to do a video for supporters only, which would be called something along the lines of the insanity. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing, expecting a different result. Because we've seen the numbers in Super attendance in the NPC and Super Rugby drop off as the All Blacks have been pulled out of those games, and that's reduced interest in them. So here we are at the pointy end of the season, and we've having the Black Ferns pulled out of games, and we're supposed to be trying to grow the women's game. Are we basically just copying the men's model, which we know is financially unsustainable, and also in Europe it's is player welfare unsustainable as well, the number of games they play. So is this? Are we not being imaginative enough with growing the women's game? I think that's probably a fair case that we're not. But anyway, so that's Farah Palmer Cup. As I say, the other game is a friendly between Manawatu versus Canterbury. They're the two sides that will be hosting the finals next weekend. And so that's also just giving them game time and making sure the players get up prepared for next weekend. And unfortunately, I'm going to say, I think that they might need to put an asterisk by whoever is champion, saying that basically the players that qualified the teams for the finals weren't allowed to play in the finals to some way. So there we go. That's just my thoughts on the women's side of the game. Joshua Guess is strangling the women's game at birth. Yeah, it does. Definitely see where you're coming from in that one. Let's have a look then at my predictions for the games that are coming up this weekend. Starting off there with the Rugby Championship this weekend. Argentina versus Australia. I'm going Australia by 20. And as you can see, South Africa versus New Zealand. I'm going for New Zealand by 7. Obviously, Argentina lost last weekend to Australia comfortably. And then when you think that 6 players won't be available, those are Pablo Matera, Joaquin Diaz Bonelli, Felipe Ezekura, Sebastian Cancellara, Santiago Medrano, Santiago Socino, as well as 2 of the staff members as well. Now, 3 of those players, 2 started and 1 was on the bench last weekend against Australia. So you can definitely say that they'd expect at least a couple of those to be, well, probably at least 3 of those 6 players to be involved again this weekend. It sounds like they got a bit unlucky because apparently they changed the rules the morning that they travelled, so and they weren't aware. So look, I'm not going to get too upset with them. I think we talked about a lot of that yesterday. But you've got to say that Argentina really pushing a boulder uphill in this game, and I expect Australia to extend their winning streak to 4 games with this one. South Africa versus New Zealand. Do go and have a listen to Warren, our interview with Warren Brosnian, where we talk about about the upcoming game. We talk about the Springboks game plan. We also talk about sort of the state of rugby in South Africa, the United Rugby Championship that's just kicked off, where South Africa are playing teams from Australia, playing teams from Ireland, Scotland, Wales, and Italy. And also we talk about him facing the hacker. And here's a little video from him answering that question.
That's what it meant for you to pull on that green and gold jersey and to stand there and face the hacker.
It's simple. I mean, it's what we play the game for. I played the game to stand one day and have that opportunity to face the hacker. That was in my, when I sat down when I was a youngster and I wanted to write my goals. That was one of my goals. I wanted to face that up.
So there you go. Lots of respect from Warren there, and I say really, a really good chat with him yesterday around that went out at 8 p.m. Last night. So you can watch that on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter. You can find if you can find the tweet. Also, it's available as a podcast as well. Go check out our pod catchers. Moving on, then let's go back to those predictions. If I can find my flip through. We've also got the top 14 over in France going on at the moment, and with this one, I generally go with the home side. You can see Brive over Stad. Stad picked up a win last weekend, their first of the season. Expect Lyon over Bordeaux, Perpignan over Pau in those top 3. I think look at those Perpignan versus Pau. That basically they've both won all their home games and lost their away ones so far. Then I kind of go off track a bit. I think La Rochelle will be up over Montpellier, who's been having a bit of a poor start, and Toulouse also against Biarritz, the promoted team there. Cast in Toulon is a poor travelling team, so I'm going to go for Cast there. And look, Clermont, their fortress really is not a fortress that it used to be anymore, and so I think Racing have got a good chance there. But as you can see, I'm not going with a lot of confidence on those away games. But there you go. That's my thoughts on the top 14. We've also got the Gallagher Premiership going on. Bristol have made a really poor start to the season, hence I'm going with Bath in that one. Saints had a cracking start to the season, and with up against London Irish, that should be a comfortable win for them. I expect Leicester Tigers, who have had a really good start, to beat Saracens, who also had a good start with that opening win over Bristol. Obviously, they're back up from the Championship. The Falcons versus Wasps will be a cracking game. I'm going with the away team there. Worcester, look, I think it's going to be a tough season for them. I expect Gloucester to beat them. And then finally, another cracking game, Sale Sharks and Exeter Chiefs. That should be a close one. I'm backing Sale Sharks. The Chiefs really have not made a great start to the season. Hey, Con, how are you doing?
Good, thank you, Paul.
Welcome to the weekend.
Yes, welcome to the weekend. And yourself, how are you doing?
Oh, good. Haven't really left the house today apart from to fill up my wheelbarrow with wood for the fire, which I've got. Actually, I was working this morning. Jeez, I forgot. I had to drive to a supermarket.
So long ago.
It was. There's so many things going on.
Cheers.
Just kind of lose track. Cheers. So what are you drinking? Because I'm again on my cheapo New Zealand lager, but you'll clearly will be on some sort of fancy craft ale. Flavors of hops or raspberries or something.
That is semi-correct. You're half there. This is I brewed it myself. It's a New England IPA. That's what they call a Nipa. It's just basically a hazy, if you like hazies, which I must say is pretty fucking good. I actually ruined it. Well, my wife ruined it. It was a long story, but I put a bit of grapefruit juice and it's made it really good. So it tastes like grapefruit, faintly like grapefruit beer, and it's pretty good. Anyway, this isn't a beer show.
No, it isn't. Not yet.
Give it a year.
We'll pop back to the rugby predictions. We'll probably get to some that you're more likely to be interested in. But we'll first just cover off on the URC. I'd say we talked about the URC with Warren. This is the fact that Rock Media are getting involved promoting that one. So Jay-Z in the house. Yeah. Look, you've got to say that the South African teams without their internationals are really struggling. So hence I'm going with Connacht and Scarlets.
You're not giving them any.
Opening. I'm not picking any. You're quite right. I've even gone to the TAB and put a $1 multi on all 4 South African teams to lose. There we go.
I think. Look, I've got a mild, level of intrigue with the URC. I sort of catch the scores on the Premiership. I'm aware that it is a better competition than the URC, but apparently it had a great opening is it 1 or 2 weeks? It's 2 weeks in, isn't it? This is the 3rd week this weekend, or is it the 2nd week?
This is the 2nd week for the.
Okay, yeah, it had a cracking opening. But these are because of, I guess it's the connection that we, Super Rugby viewers have to these teams, kind of intrigue in seeing how they go. And as you and I talked last week, the bets that I'd made, because the Bulls and the Sharks are offering tremendous potential betting options, but the bookies were pretty bang on there. They both got hammered, and I didn't win a thing. So that was a waste of money. But anyway, I think the Lions sort of is an interesting one, and I think even the Bulls. Look, I don't know about the form of these teams. I obviously know traditionally Munster and Leinster are the top dogs in the Pro 14. But can you tell me anything about I guess the teams of Connacht and Glasgow and even Scarlets and how good they are at the moment?
And so kind of are the always the sort of youngest sibling or the smallest sibling of the Irish teams there. So they always, but if you have to head over to the West Coast, then it really is a tough place to go. It's very windy. They have it's inside a greyhound track that they play their game in. Warren Brosnan actually talked about about playing at the ground. He said, seeing the planes sort of land sideways because of the wind was kind of interesting. So yes, at home, Connacht a real tough proposition. Away from home, it's a different ball game. But so that's why I've gone with Connacht there. Scarlets, Look, they didn't have a great start, and they're not quite the side they were when Pivac was running them, and they made it to, I think, a semi-final or a quarter-final of the European Champions Cup. They're not quite at that level at the moment. But then again, the Lions also are not the same side that played the Crusaders in Super Rugby final either. So hence, I think that's why they'll struggle there. Glasgow, Warren said something like, I think Glasgow have something like 21 players that played at the Rugby World Cup last year, which gives you,
Really?
2019, so 2 years ago, which gives you an idea of the difference in scale between them and the South African teams, which, when you think that over half of the South African squad play overseas, so only 20 players play for South Africa, and they're obviously those are missing as well, which just gives you that the South African teams just don't have the same resources at their disposal. It's going to take them a while to get used to this level, I think. So, hence
Obviously,
why I've got
Glasgow and Edinburgh is just two teams so that kind of bolsters their player base there compared with South African having 4.
Well, there is that, yes, but also
same with Ireland as well.
But you know, when we say Glasgow, but they're also home to some of the sort of Pacific Island internationals as well. It's not only and some of the Argentinian players are now over there because the Jaguares don't exist as well. So it's not just homegrown internationals either. They have got some foreign internationals involved as well to boost them in there.
Gotcha.
And then again, Storm was up against Munster. We saw what Munster did to the Sharks. Was it last weekend? Yes, the Sharks last weekend. Yep. The Stormers were beating beating Benetton at half time, and then threw the game away in the second half. So up against Munster, they will not get the opportunity to get that lead in the first place. So hence, that's why I've gone Munster by 20. I think
the Bulls, the Bulls would be the gold standard in South Africa at the moment, and so if they got a battering against Leinster, it kind of gives you an idea about where they're sitting, in my mind.
It does, but you also got to remember that we've got the Bulls, Sharks, and Stormers are missing their South African internationals, so they are until they come back from the Championship. They are playing weakened. Whereas if you think that Steinman came off the bench for Munster last weekend, who's going to start this weekend, they have access to. Sure, some of the British Irish Lions aren't playing yet, but they do have more access to more of their players.
Was it Conor Murray? I think was playing for. Was it Leinster? Or I tuned in for a bit, and was it Conor Murray? Or
Conor Murray will be playing for Munster.
Okay.
From memory.
So there was definitely some good players playing against playing for those teams. That, I mean, when we were speaking, I can't remember if it was on air or outside of it. My guess was that they wouldn't have played their best team because previously historically, I understand they often don't. They kind of like the Super Rugby of old, where the first sort of 4 weeks, the best players don't really play. They kind of bring in the best players as they get closer to the playoffs. But it looked like they had a pretty bang up team.
Yeah, look, I mean, Leinster, I think, had one player who wasn't international in the starting 15 in the 13 jersey. Everyone else, I think, had played international rugby.
It's pretty impressive.
Pardon me. Which just gives you, the different level of depth is unreal there. So it's going to take a while for the South African team to get used to that. Definitely.
So did the Joshua just said dark at 3:30 at Galway? That's pretty extraordinary. The fact that it's only October.
I think it will be. Yes, it won't be at this time of year.
Okay. Sorry.
One of the comments that Warren also mentioned in that interview was that currently the weather is nice in Europe. It's not going to stay that way. And so African teams
right.
It's a bit of a rude awakening when they get to dark, wet nights on a Friday.
January, February will be tough. The slog curves. Interesting. Yeah, I'll tune into a few of these games.
Well, good luck if you can. Oh, actually, that's what you can do because you've got Spark Sport.
I'm holding on to a Spark Sport subscription for some reason, so I might as well use it because there's not a huge amount of Black Caps cricket going on. Even if there was, they keep pulling out. Fair play to them. I'm not going to get into that, but I'll tune into this. They don't have. I'm a big fan of the Sky Sports highlights app. I'm not sure if you use that. Just as far as do you use that, Paul?
No,
Oh, yeah, you're probably watching all of them live, but if you miss a game, the highlights app is really, really good. And so I'll catch a few sort of various sports, that I'm like IPL and that kind of thing. I'll catch that. And sometimes rugby. Spark doesn't really have that, so you end up having to watch the whole thing. Now, if you're not, you don't have a massive passion about watching, Benetton versus Lions, it's difficult to watch the whole thing. But if you could watch it in 5 minutes, that's great. So hopefully they get on that. But yeah,
I mean, the
I'll
big
catch a
difference,
few.
one of the big differences between Sky and Spark is that Sky do produce a lot of their own material, whereas Spark, with the exception of things around the Rugby World Cup and I think around the domestic cricket, they really don't produce their own material. They just take they're really a rebroadcaster rather than actually a producer of stuff.
Right.
So, which is so unfortunately, they're only going to do what they've paid for, or they're only going to have what they've paid for to show. Finally, then the NPC is this weekend. Only 4 games, as you can see. This evening's 7 p.m. game is Northland versus Waikato. I'm backing Waikato to continue their perfect run so far this season. Actually, did they lose one? I think so. They did lose one game, against Canterbury. But yes, they've had a very good start to the season. This is part of a double header because there's also the preliminary final between Northland and Hawke's Bay. It's just half time there in the Farah Palmer Cup game with Northland leading 21-10. 2 unconverted tries in response to 3 converted tries there by Northland in that one. Bay of Plenty up against Wellington. Now, Boa's gone for Wellington in this one. I think that they've only beaten some of the weaker teams, and so I'm backing Bay of Plenty. Bay of Plenty really have not. It's not going right for them at the moment. You can see how much they were hurt, or how much their captain was hurting Aidan Ross with my post-match interview with him after their game last weekend against Taranaki. Daryl Gibson, I mean, there's been a couple of rumours that he's perhaps losing the dressing room and he didn't seem to be up particularly. He wasn't as upset on that one, but we'll have to wait and see how that one pans out. But I'm still back in the Bay by 3. Unfortunately, folks, this is at 2. Sorry, close one. Yep.
Calling it close. Sorry, go ahead, Paul.
I was going to say, unfortunately, this one is a 2 p.m. game at Rotorua, and I can't get from Hamilton to Rotorua in time to do this one.
Unless there's any helicopter pilots in the audience, hit us up.
Well, yes.
Give Paul a hand.
Well, unfortunately, I've already told Bay of Plenty that I can't go, and so I've not filled in the COVID questionnaire clearance to get into that game, so I would not be allowed in at this stage. But so in future, if people would like to fly me around, and I'd love to have gone up to the 2 back-to-back Northland games, but I didn't fancy driving through Auckland. So if someone fancied flying me up there, I'd have definitely gone to those 2.
Yep.
Then we've got Manawatu versus Otago. Wow, Joshua's going Otago by 1, he reckons, with Josh Ioane back in that one, and also Jermaine Ainsley starting for Otago. Look, mate, I think you're wishful thinking there. Look, Manawatu had a great start to the season. They've got Aaron Smith playing for them. Yeah, this is the Turbos are looking mighty impressive.
They do. And Otago have only played 2 games, right? Because they must have assumed they had fixtures against teams that have been unable to play: Auckland, North Harbour, others. So they've only played 2, whereas Manawatu, well, they've actually only played 3 as well. So, but that'll be a good one. That'll be a really good game, and Aaron Smith might be the difference.
Yeah, Otago was supposed to play North Harbour last weekend and Counties the weekend before.
Mm.
So as you say, yeah, that's why they've only that's why their wins, although the games so far have been beating Southland 26-19 and then losing to Hawke's Bay 34-10. But that was all the way back on the 14th of August.
Mm.
So, what, a month and a half away?
Yeah,
Yeah, a month and a half ago. So they've not played for 6 to 8 weeks, 6 to 7 weeks.
yeah, that could be a pretty big factor. Whereas Manawatu have, but the premiership is pretty congested at the top. You know, you got 4 teams. I'm looking at it now. 4 teams with 3 wins and a loss. So it's interesting. It's pretty cool.
Yes, it is. It is. I'm just bringing up the standings now. We'll whack them on screen. So last one, obviously, Tasman and Southland. Yeah, it's hard to look past the reigning double champions against Southland in that one. Let's be honest, Southland by 15.
And Southland are 0-3, so that doesn't help.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. So having a quick look at the table, and we'll try and resize that so it's a bit bigger for you to actually be able to maybe read it. At the top there, you've got Waikato on 16 points with 3 wins and 1 loss. And those 4 bonus points proving to be very crucial. As you say, it's good because of that congestion. Hawke's Bay, Tasman and Canterbury also all on 3 wins and a loss. But Hawke's Bay just sitting, just got a 1 point lead over the other 2 because of an extra bonus point there in that one.
Go the Bay.
Obviously the big unknown is that Auckland team sat down there in 7th place, having only played 2 games, 1-1, lost 1, but with 2 bonus points. So they could, if they win all of their catch-up games, could shoot to the top of the table. So that's a big one. Looking at Wellington versus Bay of Plenty, and they're playing this weekend, that's starting to look like a relegation battle. And that whoever loses could be going down if we get the season finished, because you've got to wonder, what would they do if Auckland can't play any games?
Well, they might be. I mean, it might be. Yeah, in the UK, obviously, you know, relegation promotions are a big deal, and they had to be quite creative with how they dealt with that, with extra teams in the Premiership and that kind of thing. Although they did relegate Saracens, right? Is that correct?
There was no Saracens came up last season. They've ring fenced now with 13 teams.
Yeah, that's right. So they promoted Saracens, but didn't relegate a team. And if it wasn't Saracens in the is it the Championship below the Premiership so if it wasn't Saracens in there, you'd think that perhaps they wouldn't have promoted whoever was in there, but that was obviously to do with the salary cap thing, another separate thing. But you're right, it will be very hard for them to. It seems to me that they, as LB says, they'll either call it off or they will exempt teams that were COVID or lockdown affected.
Now, look, it's as far as I'm aware, they haven't called off promotion relegation in the Farah Palmer Cup, and we'll have a look at those tables next as to and explain what that impact is. But as far as I know, they haven't called it off yet. So no. In the NPC though, with having only played 2 rounds, if they can't catch up, then I would expect them to call that off.
Yep.
But so at the moment, it looks like to me. Anyway, the loser this weekend between Bay of Plenty and Wellington could very well be facing the drop.
Mm-hmm.
Down in the Championship, and boy, oh boy, the Naki are looking extremely good. 4 wins from 4 games. A massive turnaround, really, on where they were last year, or where they have been the last couple of years. I've gone blank as to the name of their head coach, but an experienced guy, used to be with the Chiefs, and I asked him last weekend what had changed, what were they doing differently, and he reckoned they were doing nothing different. And you're kind of like, nah, that can't be true. But I can't really call him a liar to his face on camera. But clearly they're doing something better. and his appointment, you'd expect, is the key thing that's been mentioned there. That's the obvious change, because they've lost quality players like Sean Wainui, etc. So they really are playing together. Look at that, 168 points for. That's a lot of points.
It's incredible.
With 19 tries. Looking at the Premiership, no one is anywhere near. 18 tries for Waikato, but only 129 points, so nearly 40 points less than the Naki. And the Naki have been playing Premiership teams. They're not supposed to win Premiership games.
It's really cool. It's very cool. They'll be going up. All signs point to that.
They do. They've got to get past Manawatu, though, because remember, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what you do in the regular season. It's going to come down to one game, a final between the two, because you've got to say Manawatu are looking impressive and should make that should make the finals. So yes, the Naki will get a home final, but the question is, can on any given Sunday, as they say, even though the championship game is generally a Friday or a Saturday,
Will Smith be playing at that stage, or is he heading? Is he going to be on the? I can't recall if he's going to be on the European tour, or it's a maybe.
He's a maybe. His baby is his baby. His wife is due in November.
So that would kind of indicate that with either baby duties or All Blacks duties, there's a good chance that he wouldn't be playing in that part of the season.
Well, I'm not sure. I guess because that's what he lives down in Dunedin, and so if he was playing for Otago, I could see him turning out and still playing. But playing for Manawatu, based out of New Plymouth, not even New Plymouth, sorry, Palmerston North.
His wife's 39 months. It might not go 39 weeks. It might not go down too well.
So we'll have to see what happens there with that one. But there was talk that if the baby arrived early, he might make it on the November tour.
Yeah, it should be cool. Although, the backup players are pretty sharp, going pretty well.
Yeah, look,
so
I've got no.
It'll be good to have them there.
It's good experience with the other players. I don't see I don't see the need to rush him back under these circumstances. So on that one.
On the
again, the big question marks are around North Harbour, Otago, and counties who have only played 2 games. Now, probably not so much counties who have lost both their games, but North Harbour and Otago, how good are they really? We'll have to wait and see. I know when I did my pre-season interviews with all the head coaches last year, that Otago were very much our goal is promotion. No, they didn't make it. Clearly, they had an off. They didn't meet their goals that season. But I'd be surprised if their goals weren't the same this year.
Yep.
So they expect to be in the mix at the end.
And it is good that the Premiership teams are not just are not all including the major cities. It is good to have a bit of a mix up there. Despite I'm sure Otago fans and players and coaches, etc., not being thrilled about where they're sitting, it adds a bit to the competition.
Yeah,
go
on.
No, you go. I'm going to go.
I was going to say, I agree. I was going to be very boring. No,
that's cool.
Nothing really interesting to say.
I was really disappointed, and now I've heard your theories. This is getting into this sort of theoretical thing, but my ideal Super Rugby was a NPC styled Premiership and Championship arrangement, because I think having 6 teams or 7 teams or 8 teams in a top tier and a lower tier where you can have teams like the Force and teams like Fiji and teams like Japan, etc. In my mind, where they do have they do play against each other as well. And a promotion relegation seemed like a really good way to allow those weaker teams to be introduced and over time build up. So that, in my mind, I know you've talked. I've heard potentially off air. I'm not sure only about your sort of ideal, but I that would be what I think they could have done for the Super Rugby Pacific or Asia Pacific, because bringing a team into playing week in, week out against the Blues and the Crusaders and the Canes is very difficult, as we've seen. It's a bit of a disaster, and I have a feeling that with all the good intentions of the draw and that, it could be a bit of a bloodbath. And we know that the Australian situation, ideally, Australia has 3 teams, New Zealand has 5, and then that would potentially be the premiership, and then have promotion, relegation, and bring those other teams through. But alas, we didn't get that. So yeah. That's the great thing about what the NPC has, is that promotion relegation, the 2 teams playing off between each other, makes it really cool. That would have been my pick if I was in charge. Maybe is it Robinson? Forget his name.
Look,
see.
There's some well, be careful what we where we go with that one. Look, I mean, quite clearly Australia would have been a big no to that, because look, they the way that it's been structured guarantees them team into the finals. It's all to do with TV and interest on that kind of thing. So
that's right.
The idea that all the Australian teams could be in the championship section of it wouldn't really kind of work. So I don't think. I see where you're coming from, and it also provides in a way of a question mark: how do you expand? Because let's be honest. Super Rugby Pacific is not a final version by any stretch of the imagination.
And I guess that's what what the idea. That's what I'm. I guess my perspective is that it would allow. Yeah, it's a downside, and I see some in there. If the Blues or the Highlanders team end up in the second tier, it's a real problem for them. So you might need to find a way to have that second tier feed into the finals. But it is it just seems to me that the challenge of adding teams to Super Rugby is that they're going to have a similar situation as they had with Sunwolves. The Jaguars were. That, we probably don't talk much about Jaguars. I think I feel a bit bad for Argentine fans, because no one really talks much about the Jaguars, but they did amazingly well, in the competition. They were, about as good as it gets. But we don't have a country like Argentina willing to put the best players they can into a single team, as we do. If Japan were to put their best players in, well, they potentially would be better. But I would say Argentina is certainly better than Japan. So any other team is going to struggle. Look, I know this wasn't on the agenda, Paul, but it was just came when I was reconsidering the table there.
Look, that is a rabbit hole we could go down, but looking at the time, we don't have time to go down it today. But the difference in how the Jaguares and the Sunwolves were put together, the amount of planning around it, etc., was all chalk and cheese as to which one, and it was very clear which one wasn't going to be successful in that one. Because of just the planning around it, and that's one of the scary things I think about at the moment. The Fijian Drua and the Moana Pacifica is that with the Fijian Drua, we can see they've already got 10 players named. We already know who their head coach is going to be. We can see we know that they've got their other players contracted. They just haven't announced them yet, so we can see that the Fijian Drua are in the right way. Whereas Moana Pacifica, there's a lack of clarity on that one.
Sorry,
you may or may.
A bit of a disconnect. Yeah. No,
I'm not sure if Colin's frozen on me. I'm not sure if I've frozen on his end or how it's managing. But just very quickly, we were going to talk about the Farah Palmer Cup ones and why promotion relegation might happen there, even though they didn't complete all the games. As you can see, Otago Spirit lost all of their games during this one, and so you can see quite clearly that even though Auckland Storm didn't finish their games, other teams didn't finish all their games. There's no kind of argument as to who is the team that's in that bottom place. Again, if you look at the championship, the sides that were unable to or the side unable to finish its games was North Harbour, and again clearly behind Manawatu and Northland in that situation. So hence, if or when one of those two gets promoted, there's no real argument that someone else was better than them down there. So I can see why they're going ahead with it. Also, LB has put in the comments his prediction for the Springboks versus the All Blacks with the Box by 10. LB, yes, I've gone New Zealand by 7. I think you're being a little bit optimistic for Box by 10, but they have a chance of winning it. It's unfortunately, it's the hope that kills you, as they say. So, yeah, good. Looking forward to that game. Unfortunately, it's an 11 p.m. kickoff, as apparently Queensland doesn't change its clocks. I mean, what kind of country is Australia? You have multiple time zones, and then
multiple
some
daylight
parts of the country
savings
do,
arrangements. That's terrible.
and some parts do have daylight savings, some don't. It's just it's a crazy world. But there we go. So everybody, Colin, thank you for joining me. I've got a black screen there, so it's tech has unfortunately been a bit of an issue for us.
You can hear me though, can you, Paul?
I can hear you, yes.
Okay. Sorry, yes, I'm not sure what's happening there. Sorry, I shouldn't have these issues being in IT, but alas, that is me. I would say I think it's going to be ABs by 19. I'm putting it out there. I think
19. That's a bit precise.
Yeah. It's very precise, Paul. That's me in a nutshell. No, I think somewhere around. I think 20 is a little bit arrogant, to be honest. That's why I said 19. So 19, and the reason is I think it's also 3 tries, but only 2 conversions in difference between the scores. So I think, which says a bit about you're just checking my math there. I'm not 100% sure. But I think the All Blacks will have a bit more ball going to hand. Although I would say that if South Africa win, it wouldn't shock me. So whilst I do think the All Blacks will comfortably will win this one with a bit of comfort, because they would have disappointed themselves last week. Anything can happen against the Box, who are a great team. Yes,
two big things from the All Blacks. Their pack didn't front up enough, and they really got beaten up front by the forwards, and so probably the forwards will be wanting to make a statement this weekend, and we'll see how that one, if they can, against a very good and very physical Springboks pack. And the other one is just a number of dropped balls, poor handling in the backs. Can they clean that up this weekend? So from an All Blacks point of view, it's those two things. From a Springboks point of view, as Warren Brosnan said, it's not so much about changing the game plan. The game plan is getting them in the right places. It's about spotting when the opportunity is on and taking it. The kick first game plan is still the right game plan to get them in that position in the first place. But they just didn't take those opportunities when they presented themselves. Anyway, well overrun, folks. Hope you have a great weekend. I'll be back with post-match reaction to both of the Argentina versus Australia and South Africa versus New Zealand games. There'll be no lockdown beers tomorrow on Saturday because of the rugby that's on and the games on that. But we should be back on Sunday with lockdown beers at 5 p.m, folks. Also, I'm thinking of continuing this daily kind of rugby news show with maybe an off season when the news sort of gets a bit quieter. But to do that, though, folks, I really would love your support. So please head over to patreon.com/NZ Sport Radio to become a supporter of New Zealand Sport Radio. Con did that the day before yesterday, I think, so he has become a supporter. Thank you, sir. It means the world to me. Everyone else, please. If you could, I would be much appreciated of that. Someone here says he voted no in the referendum for daylight savings in Western Australia. Well, there we go.
There's plenty of daylight over there, probably.
Well, yes. To me, choose a time and stick to it. Stop moving clocks around. Jeez. My kids came in and went, "Hey, look, we've let you sleep in. It's 8:15. No, it's not. It's 7:15. You've not let me sleep in at all. Rubbish. The clock's changed. Deary me. I wasn't awake enough to tell them that because I couldn't figure it out. But there we go. Because my mobile phone has changed. wasn't until I got in the car and the clock in the car doesn't change automatically that I realised. Deary me. Anyway, why was I tired? Yes, because it woke me up early. Ugh.
That was the day after you did a post show at about 12:30 as well, I think. So that's why.
Yes. That didn't help. Anyway, thank you, Con. Thank you everyone who's joined us. Sorry for the rant, but hey, sometimes you just need to let it out.